Hello, Rolling Stone. I'm Andreea Gleeson. I'm the CEO of TuneCore, and if you're not familiar with what TuneCore is, we are a platform for independent musicians to sell their music online on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and you don't need to be signed to a label. You can actually do it yourself, and a lot of artists are moving in that direction. So really excited to speak with you. You know, I started working at TuneCore about 7 years ago, and when I started, it's just been such a change. Initially, artists that would come talk to me, they would say, oh, I'm independent, I feel like I'm not at the same level as the artists that are signed. But fast forward 7 years, and there's just been such a change where artists are proud to own their masters. They are proud to actually be more involved in the business scene. And now there's a pride with it where artists are saying, I am independent AF, and so proud of it, and it's created this new breed of artist. We pride ourselves, and our mission is actually to develop artists at all stages of their career. And that starts with TuneCore. We are mainly sort of the platform that's really built on technology, where it's all self-serve. Artists can come and put their music out, but then if they want more support, we have Believe's Label and Artist Solutions. And essentially, our goal is to always develop artists, and some artists, they want to plug into a team where they can get more support, but what we're seeing is that some artists actually prefer to stay on a technology solution like ours and hire a team around them that they can customize and pick. And what's really great is that ultimately, because we're part of the Believe group, we have a first-hand view of how artists are developed with people. And so what we're doing together in our group is to build solutions for every kind of artist, no matter what the path they pick. And we're building the things that Believe does with people, but with technology. So one thing that you can expect in the music industry is that you will experience change, and it's moving at a faster and faster pace, and our goal is to always make sure that our artists are always in the know about what they need to know about now. When you are doing everything yourself, you are wearing a ton of hats. You have to be your own tour booker, you have to do your social media, you are your own entertainment lawyer, and that comes just with a lot, and to really educate yourself on what are the best practices can be a little bit daunting. So our goal is to make sure that we're providing the best education in most succinctly and in the most helpful way for our artists to have it. And so we do that in a couple ways. One, we have periodic online webinars, so we call them live sessions, that we put on with industry experts, with other artists giving artist advice, and that's something that we really believe in and do regularly. The other thing is we do in-person events. So we have a local team that is in Brazil, and they come and do the in-person events with Rolling Stone or with the local conferences, and make sure that we are visible and able to provide those best practices to artists that are attending events in person. And then third is that for all artists that are on the TuneCore platform is we have master classes. So you can go on and get education on how to do your cover art, how to promote yourself, how do you do your release strategy, what is publishing administration, which when I tell artists, their eyes glaze over because they don't understand. Essentially, we want to be able to provide education in all formats for artists in the best way that is available to them. I think it's really interesting because in more developed markets like in the US and Europe, the old music industry kind of persists a little bit more. What's really interesting is that in markets that are starting to really flourish, like, in Latin America, let's talk about Bad Bunny, like being at the top of the charts in the US, they're jump starting to a different stage more quickly because their affinity to adopt technology, especially with more emerging genres that are happening here in Brazil specifically, with just how much there's been an increase in more hip hop influence. We're finding that the artists that are younger and just coming into the music scene, they don't have this conception of what it was. Instead, they're adopting the new technology, leaning into platforms like TikTok and using it to help make that springboard and think of it as a part of their marketing plan. And in a way, it's putting them to a bigger advantage than artists that maybe came up, maybe 10 years earlier. So what we're seeing is that artists, the new artists that are coming out of these markets are able to break through in ways that other artists from these markets years past have not been able to do. And it's creating this amazing breakthrough as we see Afrobeats coming to the US from Africa, the huge insurgence of Latin influence in music in the West. And digital has really made that possible. If you think about it, you have music from artists in all over the world that are making it in different parts, able to put it up, and it can be consumed by any listener around the world. They are not tied to, can I get on the radio? Can I get shelf space in a record store? Now there's an endless aisle with streaming, and artists can build their fan bases directly themselves. And if the music is good, it rises to the top. And the music becomes popular and listened to based off the merit of the music. So it's really very exciting times for music in Latin America, in Africa, in emerging markets. So before I joined TuneCore, I actually worked in retail for over a decade in e-commerce. And I lived through essentially bringing shopping online. And the thing about retail is that women are at all levels of the organization. So for me, it was very different to come over to TuneCore and see that in my company, and then also in the music industry as a whole, there were just far less women that were working in the industry. The other thing that was more striking than that was, in my first month where I was learning about our TuneCore artist base, you learn about like, who are they, where are they, et cetera. The thing that was most striking is that only 28% of TuneCore artists were women. And so, and compare that to, there's a study that's done out of the US for top charting artists on the Billboard 100 charts and what the makeup is by gender and ethnicity and race. And it's about the same. So it's about a quarter women. And so it didn't make sense to me that even on a platform like TuneCore, there would be such low participation when 50% of the US population is women. And so essentially, this never sat well with me. The thing is that there weren't a lot of studies out there to explain why this was happening, to know where to start. Why are not more women participating in the music industry, both on the executive and on the artist side? And it's all the things that you would expect, but quantified. So number one is that harassment continues to persist, and discrimination. So women not being treated appropriately when they're in studios. The second reason really leading to lack of resources and opportunities. So, there could be a lineup of 10 slots for a showcase, but only one goes to a woman, and then all the women are working to fight for that one spot. And then the third reason is because of confidence, because if you have the first two, of course you're going to have confidence issues, which ultimately leads to women dropping out of the industry. If you don't know that something is an issue, and if you don't know why it's happening, how are you going to change it? So change really starts with knowing and being aware of what needs to change, and then taking action. Armed with the information from the study, there becomes some very actionable ways that you can participate. So for us, one, we wanted to start making change. We became a core sponsor of an organization called Key Change. They are mostly in Europe and a little bit in Canada, but they were not in the US. And why we picked this organization is because it is driven around action. There's two parts to the organization. One is a pledge program, and the second is a participant program. Pledge program is organizations like Spotify, like TuneCore, like YouTube, saying, I'm going to commit to a certain goal for myself to say, I will make a more diverse makeup of my company. And you make those goals for yourself. You can make them public. You can just keep them to yourself. But every year you have to report on how did you do against your goal to Key Change. And then ultimately, Key Change is aggregating all of that to help drive legislation. The second is a participant program for a group of artists that are either women or gender minorities to go through a year-long mentorship where they're given access to resources and opportunities to help them progress their career. This year, we made a lot of work to help make sure that we were hiring more women and that we were also hiring more underrepresented members of racial and ethnic groups. And we set goals and we measure how are we doing against those goals. So we set the goal for this year to get our male-female ratio from, it was like 36% the year before to 42%. We hit it in third quarter, but then in the fourth quarter we had just some attrition and we got to 40% is what we ended the year with. And we hope that by walking the walk that we are talking about in the study, it will show other organizations that they can do it too. I think that there's just so much possibility when it comes to independence. As artists have been independent and doing things themselves, they're realizing that they can be in more control because they can decide what music to put out, when to put it out. Often when an artist is on a label, they will tell them, no, you can't put it out this week because so-and-so is doing something this week and you have to wait. We believe that more artists are making choices toward being independent and going at it in this more customized way where they're handpicking their team. And the trajectory, and we're very excited to be a part of it and continue to innovate to make sure that artists have more choices and can go on this path because it doesn't seem to be stopping.